From Isolation Studios, it's Richard Krause.
Welcome everybody to In Isolation With. It's the talk show where we make a connection without actually making contact. I'm Richard Krause, and I hope you're staying healthy and happy. My guest today joins me via Zoom from her home in Montreal. To call Dawn Tyler Watson a blues singer isn't quite accurate. Sure, she is called the Queen of the Blues in Montreal, and her latest record, Mad Love, just won the 2020 Juno Award for Best Blues Album of the Year, but her music also infuses elements of jazz, soul, rock, and gospel to push the boundaries of traditional blues. We caught up with her. We talked about what she learned while busking in the subway, taking home the coveted first place prize at the International Blues Challenge in Memphis in 2017, why she used to have imposter syndrome, but doesn't anymore, and how her perspective on everything changed after triple bypass surgery. Now, I started the interview by asking how she and her dog Molly are doing these days. Let's get to know Dawn Tyler Watson.
We're doing pretty good, actually. Molly is fine. It is what it is. I try to focus on what I have rather than what I don't have, And so many people are in such worse conditions, so it's quite something. Speaking of
I
Molly,
think Molly just heard her name, yeah.
she's having a little fit. Oh, sorry. She'll be fine.
There isn't any live music right now, so I'm asking people, musicians that I speak to, if you have any memories from gigs that either you've done or shows that you've seen that really live on in your memory.
I feel so grateful that I get to travel the world and get paid and do what I love for a living. So, it's awesome. Some of the coolest places I've played, playing the North Pole, that's really, quite something. We got to play up there for the troops. I've played there twice. So that's Alert, which is the highest, most inhabited place on Earth. Yeah.
Now,
so
something. Are there challenges that come along with that? I presumably it's really cold. That must do something to your throat. You have to be careful about that kind of thing. What comes along with playing in Alert?
You're basically, with the armed forces, so you have to follow the protocol. It's the only way to get up there. We wore the Arctic gear. We went up in a very uncomfortable Hercules plane, and it's far. It's a long flight. It's like, it's like going to London. It's like 8 hours. It's far. Yeah, from what I remember, I'd say 8 hours. Maybe even longer. We stopped in Greenland. So, but you're with the Army. So, no, it didn't affect it's like you go inside the complex and you close a fridge door behind you. So we just had a great time. The hardest thing I had to do, the last time we went up, we got stuck there. So there was that was when there was something came out in Bosnia. They had all the planes had to go down there. And I remember being stuck. We got stuck there for 10 days. We were supposed to be there for 3.
Oh,
so
man.
Everybody had to cancel all the gigs. I was there with Steve Strongman, Paul Delorier, Jack DeKaiser. And so these are all great friends of mine in the blues. And we just jammed and partied. They drank a lot. I don't drink, but they basically there's a gym, there's a bowling alley, there's 2 bars. It's quite crazy. So yeah. A lot of fun.
Now, we know you as a blues singer, but jazz was your original love, and that's what actually brought you to Montreal. I'm in Toronto right now speaking to you, but you were born in England, you grew up here in Toronto, and then you followed your love of jazz to Concordia in Montreal. Tell me what it was about jazz music that drew you in. What was it? And what did you first hear that made you think, oh, I want to do that?
I really always loved, the first time I really started exploring jazz was in my early 20s. So when I got an opportunity to come to Montreal, it wasn't that jazz brought me here. First of all, I'm from London, Ontario. So not Toronto, although I did spend some time in Toronto. Yeah, and so when I got a chance to come here, my best friend, one of my best friends, moved here, and she encouraged me to come and audition. And when I came here, there was no program for soul or R&B or pop. It was classical or jazz. So, and I had already been listening to a little bit of jazz. I mean, Billie Holiday, Sarah Vaughan, the greats, Ella Fitzgerald. Somebody had given me a cassette tape, and that shows you how old I am, of, you know, a mixed tape. And I just fell in love with the torch songs and with the, you know, the delivery method of telling a story with song. And so, yeah, when I got accepted in Concordia, first of all, I was quite surprised because my grades were not very good in high school. And, but they accepted me, and I had the opportunity to do opera because I have a very strong voice. And I said, no, I'll stick with jazz. And so that's, you know, that was the beginning of my love affair with Quebec. I've been here ever since. I moved here in '88. So that was my first year. And I was only 10, 12.
That's right, yes. Me too. How did your transition then into the blues happen?
Blues, I say it chose me. It really did. And it was my first year. Oh, there she is.
There's
Speaking
Molly.
Molly. Molly, come. Darn it. It's just a dog going by. When she doesn't know. But yeah, so when I came here, I was studying jazz, as I said, and when I graduated a couple of years later, I was playing in Montreal in the clubs with an R&B soul band, and a small record label from the West Island approached me to put a couple of songs on a compilation that they were doing, a blues compilation. And that was it. I was going to do some standards, but then I said, you know, I can write a blues song. And I wrote a couple tunes, and they loved them, and they put them on the record. And the very next year, I was at the Montreal Jazz Fest in front of 10,000 screaming fans. And I remember the moment distinctly because it was the biggest show I'd ever done. Till then, I'd only done clubs. And I was they had a catwalk that year, and I was standing on the catwalk in the middle of the crowd, and I went, oh my God, I guess I'm a blues singer now. And that was it. I get goosebumps because I remember the moment exactly. I was like, and I have suffered, or I should say, I've struggled with what do they call it, identity, yeah, you know, imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome, yeah. And why so?
Well, since then, I struggled with it because I really didn't feel like I'd chosen the blues. I didn't know much about blues. I mean, other than what I studied at school. I fought the system. Like, I had people around me saying you have to do a really traditional blues now. We did this in '98, and my solo album, my first album, didn't come out till 2001. So during that time, we were able to tour a lot, do all the festivals in Quebec and Ontario. We even went to, maybe, I don't know if I went to France at that point, but we were playing quite a bit. And it was all based on 3 songs I did on this compilation. So when I put out my album, it was like, oh no, it's got to be straight ahead blues. You got to solidify your presence in the scene. And because I love jazz and folk, and I write, and I was raised on like country and all kinds of influences. My first album is very eclectic, and when it was nominated, and I was nominated for Maple Blues Award the first time, it was like, wow, people are embracing that. And my music has been that way ever since. So it's really cool to be now, you know, so acknowledged by a Juno in the blues music category. And the imposter thing only really stopped when we won in 2017, when we won the International Blues Challenge in Memphis. I went down there with 7 guys from Quebec, you know, white guys from Quebec, and we competed against 260 acts, and we beat out all these bands from Chicago and New Orleans, and you know, it really, really blew my mind, and I went, okay, wow, well, I really must be pretty good.
guys, we talked about this, man. Till last week! Till last week! Till last week! Till last week! Till last sweet, 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 sweet. Sugar dry.
It's interesting to look back to just before all that, because you busked on the streets and in the subway, and I wonder what you learned from that. You've got to do a takeaway from that, because you're getting such, probably I would think, immediate feedback from the people on the street. They either give you money or they don't. I have a feeling they're more likely to speak to you if they like what you're doing. So you must learn a little bit about dealing with an audience from that.
Totally. I recommend people doing it. First of all, to me, it was really a challenge and a game to get people's attention, because you'll find people who just do this. I don't have any money. I don't want to give me any money, like that. So I would direct my energies to them, and I'd sing at the top of my lungs, like whatever song it was at the time, I am your lady. And you are my man. And I would belt it, and I would try to get these little old guys to look up, or the people that would just normally walk right by you, and I would get crowds around me. I learned to project. I learned to communicate to people. I learned not to be afraid of the audience. I learned a lot of things busking, and I love doing it. And in fact, when this pandemic hit, I thought, I can always go back to busking, I can always go back to singing on the street. Yeah, I was when I stopped busking, I was making like $100 an hour in front of the jazz festival one year. Yeah, I was right in front of the jazz fest, and I was like, people were throwing in $20 US bills and stuff. It was great. So, yeah.
That's pretty good money.
Yeah, it was. You couldn't go for longer than 3-4 hours, but still, it's very good money.
Well, you played in I think the band that you mentioned earlier, one of them anyway, it was the band that you played like R&B, and you played the Doors and Aretha Franklin. And there's a story about how you got $50 for playing with them. And tell me about that $50. Was that the first time you had made money from being on a stage? And what does that mean to you? Because it's an extraordinary thing, right? You do what you love, and there's a reward.
Yeah, it blew me away. I was like, and at the time I was drinking too. So we were like, we're playing this club, and it was my first band. I was still in the Concordia. It was my first band we put together. We were doing all that material you were talking about. So we were called 2/3 Scotch because we were 2/3 of us were alcoholic, and we just drank. We would drink up our entire tab. And at the end of the night, they gave me my pay, and I was like, wow, and I make money too, Yeah. It's a wonderful feeling. Like I said, the pandemic has been so difficult, but it's also just made me count my blessings that I really truly say this from the bottom of my heart. I'm blessed to do what I love for a living, that I get paid for it, that I'm able to, pay my mortgage. I have a house, I have a car. I'm able to take care of myself and see the world and do the thing I love the most and bring people joy. And because it brings people joy, it feeds me, it nourishes me. I do music with seniors. So I've been doing that since I was in Concordia. So over 25 years, I've been doing music with old folks. And so this pandemic has been really tragic to watch, especially here in Quebec. I don't know what the deal is in Toronto. I know you've had some deaths as well, but in the residences here, it's been tragic to watch and not be able to, to do something. And slowly, I did my first gig last week. They called me to go back to one of the homes, and they're slowly opening up again. And the people's faces it's why I do what I do. I go in and I play my guitar and I sing songs they know and I animate them, and just the joy on their faces, it feeds my soul, So.
In a much different sense, we haven't had live music for March 13th is when I went into isolation. So I haven't seen any live music at least since then. And the other day I was walking down the street and there was a guy playing guitar and singing. And frankly, he wasn't very good, but I got kind of emotional because I hadn't seen anyone with an instrument in real life singing and playing music for months. And it really struck a chord with me.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's a powerful thing. It is. I have my first gig coming up on Sunday. So I'm playing at the Upstairs Jazz Bar. So I'm really excited about it. They have put in all the protocols. They've got like plexiglass. It's a really tiny little
Would
you know.
you be standing behind plexiglass? I've been hearing that that's one of the solutions that they have, is that you play low so people don't have to speak loudly if they're going to speak while the music is on, and and that perhaps the performers will be behind some sort of protective layer.
Like in the Brothers movie.
That's right. For different reasons.
I don't believe for this gig we are. I know the owner, I know the club, it's very small. The maximum people they fit in there is 70, 80 people. I've been playing there for years, but their maximum capacity now is 30 and they're doing 2 shows. And so there's a 7-foot Steinway and between me and my pianist, so it's only a duo show. And the people are back from the stage and I will be in the far corner. Right. So that's apparently 20 feet if you sing loud is, the maximum. But I don't believe he's put plexiglass in front of the stage, so to speak. So it's going to be a real experience, an adventure in going back. And he was just thinking about it this morning, even the sound, the monitor system, will I be able to hear myself? It's a small place. So this is the first time I've heard what you've said, though, about playing quietly so people can talk and not yell. And
in hearing you talk about how grateful you are that you are making money and that you have a career singing and that things are going well, I think that, again, we go back to 2017 and your surgery, that everyone said you will not be able to go to Tennessee, you will not be able to compete, you will not be able to do any of these things, but you did it and you recovered and you won, and that's got to be a big thing. But it also has to, I think, change your perspective, because you had a life-threatening surgery done that you came through the other side of. Has it changed your perspective?
Absolutely. And get a little emotional thinking about it. It's funny because, it didn't cross my mind, actually, that I wouldn't be able to make it. It was in November 4th, 2016. Mm-hmm. And the doctor had told me, I went in, it was very sudden and unexpected. It was triple bypass. And, I thought they were going to say, lay off the coffee. I went into emergency on the Tuesday. On the Friday, I had the operation. So it all happened very quickly. And I was really just in a blur. And when I came out of that, I remember the doctor said, I said, what's the downtime? He said 3 to 6 months. All I heard was 3 months, because I knew that in 11 weeks, I had my flights booked to go to Memphis. And we were going to go and we were going to do our damn best to represent and to win this competition. And it never crossed my mind. I remember my dear friend Angel Forrest coming to me and saying, Dawn, do you think you can, we're okay to step in? She was the runner-up at the Quebec competition. And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? No, I'm going, man. I'm going. And it didn't cross my mind. We did our best, and we freaking won. It's one of the proudest moments. And for me, I'm a real perfectionist. And, even winning the Juno, it's super great, but it's always well, I could have done this better or that better, or now I got to do a new album. And now it's, there's always something. It's hard for me to really feel that pride, but that moment in February 2017, and it was to the day, the 4th of January, that we won that competition. No, February. Yeah. And I to the day, and I remember standing on that stage and just feeling, like I said, that imposter syndrome vanished. We had just won in Memphis against all these killer blues bands, killer. And it so still fills me with pride and affirms that I am in the right place, doing the right thing at the right time, no matter what's going on around me. So yeah, it did change me. It changed my perspective, gave me a lot more confidence, and filled me with a lot of pride and gratitude.
Well, let's talk about, you talk about new music. You mentioned that Mad Love. Congratulations on this.
Thank you.
And tell me, sort of the themes of the songs are about love in all sorts of different ways. It's not just one, they're not all love songs. There are some hurting songs, there are some love songs. It's love in all its many splendored beauty. Tell me about the inspiration for putting this together. Did it start as sort of like a theme song or a collection of songs?
It kind of materialized into that. It kind of, as we started putting the songs together, it became that. And I was just going through a major divorce. I had just gone through a divorce, actually. So in 2015, the breakup of my marriage, which was sudden and unexpected. And, there was a lot of issues, mental health issues, depression and anxiety that came after. And so that spurred some of the songwriting. And then when we went into the studio and started to collect the songs together, we started to see the theme, and some of them were just so powerful. And doing the album was a real cathartic exercise for me. And every time I sing these songs, I heal. So you're talking about the ones, there are some fun ones on there. There's some light ones about flirting. There's some sexy ones. There's ones about, addictive love. There's ones about mental illness there, and love and loving someone who has an illness. And, and about the relief of being in a relationship that you don't even know is weighing you down and carrying so much emotional weight that when it's over, you suddenly realize, oh my God, I can breathe. And that song Feels Good is about that. When I sing that on stage, it's coming from my soul every single time, and I heal. And I know that despite all the pain of breaking up and trying to keep it together, but that I'm far more better off now. And so and then when we did the photo shoot, we saw that photo, the headshot, which is like, mad love can be mad angry, which love can drive us to be insanely angry, and it can also drive you crazy. So it just seemed like a really appropriate title, and everything, like I said, just fell into place. And I find that in life in general, when things just fall into place and you're in the flow, that's where it's supposed to go. And
Well, it's a very confident sounding record. And by that, I mean your work on it and the songwriting. And I think it's really interesting that the lyrics to The River and Love to Burn were written just as you were going in the studio. And I think that's a sign of confidence. Instead of writing a song, practicing it 5,000 times in a club before you record it. This is a different way of working. This is what Bob Dylan does, walks in and just makes stuff happen in the fun. And it sounds, to me, it sounds different and it feels different. Does it to you?
well, it's interesting you point that out, because I didn't know Bob Dylan did that. I thought just unorganized ADD people like me did that. It's like, I am showing up, I'm supposed to record this today, but it's not finished. Here we go, I'm gonna sit down and write, because I sometimes don't do anything until I'm right at the edge, and then it's crush time, done. You gotta record the. So I had to finish the lyrics on that. The River, it was just the order of the verses. Yeah, we wrote one or two of the verses the same day I recorded them. So it's interesting because, I often chide myself because I don't do the song 5,000 times live to really get it gelled before I go in the studio. I tend to go in the studio with whatever. And God bless Francois Tipo, who is my producer, Frankie, because he's the one who says, okay, here's the timeline. You need to do this, 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 and that. And then we're going to go in the studio on this month and this day. And he took me by the hand, literally, for both records that I worked with him, and and led me through the process and told me, okay, we're doing it Monday. He's just got a way of being able to focus my energy. And I really believe if it wasn't for him that, this album wouldn't have sounded anywhere near as confident. Also, the Ben Racine Band. I am so blessed to work with Ben and the guys. They are a tight unit. They are committed. They're professional. They're, what can I say? A gang of guys. They're young. They're enthusiastic. So they just make me sound good. It's beautiful. I'm really, really glad and happy to know that you noticed that on the record, that it sounds confident, because that's really cool. It's cool.
Dawn, what a pleasure to speak to you.
You
Thank
as
you so
well.
much.
Thank you. It's been really lovely. Thank you, Richard.
That was Dawn Tyler Watson. Find her award-winning album, Mad Love, wherever you buy fine music. My thanks to Dawn for spending some time with me today, but most of all, as always, my biggest thanks goes to you for watching. I'm Richard Krause. Stay safe, stay happy, and we'll talk again soon.